Welcome, welcome. I am Dina, and this is Discussions with Dina. I want to welcome you and hope that all of you and yours within the sound of my voice are doing well. And I hope that you are taking time to enjoy this beautiful day today. Now, if you are listening on YouTube, I want to invite you to click the subscribe button and the bell in the right hand corner to notify you when this podcast goes live. If you are listening on Spotify, Google Play, or on any of the platforms by which you get your podcast, click the follow button. If you would like to comment on the topic being discussed today, you can do so by subscribing and commenting. Chat with me or by calling into the show. The number here is 478 227 2857. Let your voice be heard. Like, share, and leave your comment. Let's talk. I enjoy reading your comments and your messages, and I encourage you to join in the discussion. And as always, you can show your support for this podcast by donating. You can donate $5, $10, $20, whatever amount you choose to donate. It is totally up to you. And as always, your donations go toward the production of this show. Show, show your support. And how you show your support? You can donate through the Cash App at $ discussions with Dina or on PayPal at paypal.me/discussions with Dina. I am sure many of you may be finding yourself and your life to be much different from the way it was a couple of days ago, and most certainly different from the way it was a week or two ago. The quarantine is guaranteed to make you like, love, or tire of one another, even all or some of the above at different times. But I just want to remind you that in the midst of this crisis that we have among us at this time, the crisis at hand, we can still find ways to make the best of what some may consider to be an uncomfortable or unusual situation. Gotta look at the bright side of things. Some of you are now spending quality time with one another, of course, through different and difficult circumstances, but nonetheless, you are together. And it is a wonderful time to get in some good, wholesome quality time between mom, dad, and children, dads with your children, and grandma and granddad, or whomever you find yourself in close proximity to at this time. Just make the best of it. This is a unique and a serious time in our lives. It is a great time to reflect and bond and rekindle. Now, you can rekindle some of your existing relationships, and I don't just mean between female and male interaction, not just that, but we will see which connections was made, especially in a year or so when we see a lot of little COVID juniors running around here next year this time. But I'm just offering some just a little bit of support to many of you that may be a little humdrum. It's no better time than now to reconnect spiritually or mentally with those in your household or even your extended family that you know you perhaps have not had the time you wish you had to spend with them. So go ahead and take this opportunity now. Connect now. Now you have no excuse. You can pick up the phone and just call them. You remember when you said, if I just had a little time, I've been so busy. Okay, those barriers are gone. So now you can make the best of a difficult situation and take a little time to just enjoy the ones you love. I have been listening to the news a lot, as everyone has, I'm sure, trying to keep up with this COVID thing. But I want you to know, in the midst of everything, yes, there is pain, hardship, and death, but I want you to understand that this too will pass. As difficult as these circumstances may seem right now, know for a surety that this too will pass. Now, I happen to be in the state of Georgia, and in my state and in my city, the schools are closed for the year. Most people are unable to work, and you are asked to not be out and about unless you absolutely have to. And that's for like medicine, food, of course, exercise, and definitely you're not to gather in groups larger than 10. Nothing over 10 people, and they're asking everyone to stay at least 6 feet away from everyone else. And finally, they said, which I thought would have been something that they would have done from the beginning, is to wear a mask. That is something I would have encouraged myself from the beginning. Now, they said if you're considered to be an essential worker, you are okay and expected to go to work. And I hear that some businesses are even issuing special passes so that people can travel because they don't want you out and about. But this letter you give to the po if they pull you over is to show that you can be out and about for work. Now, I was thinking myself how ironic it is that now the clerk, the cashier, the bag boy, and the store associates that we see often are now deemed essential. And now many find value in what they do. I have always found value in these people, and I've always deemed them essential and necessary. And I have encouraged everyone else to put value in what you do, even if others don't value what you do, because this society has a problem with putting certain people up on a higher to or holding them to a higher standard than others. We have these levels in this society when in our actuality there are none that are better than others or more important. I'm sorry, you're just not. Everybody is important, and what people do is important. You can think it's insignificant until times like this show you how indispensable they really are. So I want to thank those people because I have always felt like they don't get their props and people often disrespect them, which I don't understand that either. But anywho, these essential people should be properly compensated. They showed where some companies are giving them a temporary $2 an hour raise, which is nonsense. Give the people $2 permanently. Make it permanent. I mean, you're profiting big time. The owners of these companies, the big corporations, give these people that measly $2. They should have been getting it anyway. But I have to say though, I find it hilarious myself the number of parents that are complaining about having to be at home with their children. I hear parents complain about spending time with their own children. Quality time. There's people having to teach their children. I don't understand it. I find it a little bit weird and it's funny at the same time. How do you not know how to teach your own children? I think that sometimes we forget that you are teaching your children if you're a parent. You're on duty 24/7. You're teaching them. And then I ask the question, don't you guide and educate them about life every day? In addition to keeping up with their schoolwork, Surely you got to be checking what the teacher sends home or what your children are working on at school, don't you? If you're not, you definitely should be doing that. You need to know what it is that your children are doing and working on and what they're being taught. It's very important. And then I ask them, they act like they don't know these children or there's something foreign about. Don't they live with you before school, after school, weekends, summer? Yes, no? I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this society's psyche. We've been taught here to have babies and send them over to someone else to rear, someone else to teach and guide them. And we have to ask ourselves, what's wrong with this picture? And I've been giving that a lot of thought. It's kind of funny that we have allowed others to put us in such a position where we almost don't even know the people that we bring into this world. You are their first teachers, mothers and fathers, but we so freely turn our babies over and allow others to maintain and dispense their ideas and propaganda into their minds, which really explains the end product that we see today. And it is quite deep when you have a chance to ponder it all. But this is a good time to get some structure back into your household and just enjoy the people in your life. You gotta remember to speak to children on their levels about what is going on around them. Put it in terms in which they can understand. And to all of the parents out here who are at home with your little ones, please remember to show some patience and most of all, listen to them and try to make their time inside fun or at least comfortable while they learn. Because I know, believe me, I know little children. They can be very energetic, loquacious, and ostentatious at times, but have a little patience and just try to enjoy the moment. What I like to do is reflect. I like to imagine myself when I was their age and what I wanted and how I wanted to be treated. And sometimes when you do that, it can be funny because little children tickle me. And I love observing them because some of the things they do tickle me to death. Some of the things they do and say. But that is just something I wanted to speak about and encourage you. Keep up the good work. It's like riding a bike. It'll all come back to you. Now, in your area, and I am here in the dirty South, have there been people making a run on the gun shops, the grocery stores, and the liquor stores? Is everybody still trying to find tissue, paper towels, alcohol, hand sanitizer, bleach, Lysol, or disinfectant wipes? Are you having any luck with finding much of that? uh, it seems to be a crisis. I even saw today where plumbers were saying they were making more money than ever because people are flushing some of the most ridiculous stuff down the toilet because they can't find toilet tissue. Now we see this is happening, so we need people to put this tissue out here because why isn't tissue is easy to make? Come on now, the big corporations, do what you need to. Don't hold back and try to profit because the demand is here. Put this stuff out here for people. Come on. Now, I hope that you can find all the products you need. And I hope that you are being very careful and using the best hygiene so we can stop this virus because it's affecting us more than any others. And I have my questions and theory about why. And this is not something to me that is normal or natural because how does it come from China and does so much damage? then it goes to Italy, but then you want to get here in the United States and say all of a sudden that something that black people are doing is making it worse than what were the Italians and the Chinese people doing that made it so bad. I feel like it's a lot more to this than they're saying, and I'm gonna hold my tongue just a little until I get the rest of the details. But something don't smell quite well here, and we'll discuss this at a later time. But something that I found very interesting that I wanted to share that has been getting some news. It's been in the news a little bit, and I am referring to a couple of politicians. It seems that there are a few that are still padding their own pockets and looking out for themselves in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, there are many that question whether or not this coronavirus or COVID 19 was something that this country and government may have actually known about in advance. Now, after learning about four senators who conveniently sold off stock amid the onset of the COVID 19 pandemic, it does make you kind of wonder, because I've been listening to different reports about this, and it does leave a lot of questions in your mind open. I was looking at the NBC News, I was reading a couple things that were printed in media regarding a couple of senators that sold stocks. There were four senators, and one that I am speaking of in particular is because she is a senator in the state in which I live. One of those was Kelly Loeffler of Georgia. There was Dianne Feinstein, Burr, Inhofe. They sold off millions of dollars of stock before the coronavirus even crashed the stock market in March, and they're being accused of causing the stock market to crash by using the advanced knowledge that they were privy to in advance of this pandemic. They knew that the stock market would be affected by this crisis. So the information that they were given, they actually used it to trade stocks, insider stock trading. Now, they are saying that they didn't do this. I'm simply repeating what I'm hearing and what I am reading. One news report said four senators sold stocks shortly after a January briefing in the Senate on the novel coronavirus outbreak, unloading shares that plummeted in value a month later as the stock market crashed in the face of a global pandemic. According to financial disclosure forms, Senators Kelly Loeffler, she's a Republican, she's in Georgia. James Inhofe, which is a Republican in Oklahoma. Dianne Feinstein, which is a Democrat in California. And Richard Burr, which is a Republican in North Carolina. Each sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in stocks within days of the Senate holding a classified briefing on January 24th. On January 24th, the Trump administration officials had this meeting, and it was about the threat of the coronavirus and the possible outbreak. The sales that were made are questioned because it's making others wonder if these senators in fact violated the Stock Act, and that is a law that bans members of Congress from making financial trades based on non-public information. Now, Kelly Loeffler, who is, like I said, in Georgia, her husband is the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, and he sold at least $355,000 in stock from January 21st to January 31st. And this is according to the Senate records. And this was after the coronavirus briefing that was hosted by the Senate Health and Foreign Relations Committee. They also sold, she and her husband sold $890,000 in stocks from February 5th to the 14th, just days after the first confirmed coronavirus cases emerged here in America. But 2 weeks before um, the spread of disease was confirmed within this country, the sales were combined worth at least $1.2 million together. And it saved her and her husband from big losses. They would have incurred huge losses if not selling off these stocks when the market crashed. It started to crash in February. Now, she said in a pair of tweets that she doesn't control her and her husband's financial assets, and she was given a lot of information as to how she didn't play a role in this, which is difficult to believe because she had information straight from the horse's mouth. So her and Richard Burr are facing accusations. And those are the Republicans that I'm speaking of. Now, right after they sold this stock, having been given information in advance, the stock market, as we know, took a nosedive. And that was supposed to be due to the pandemic. They did a private meeting on January 24th. That would have been on a Friday. And that was the exact same day that her and her husband sold their joint holdings in certain technology companies. And afterwards, the company's stock price fell by more than half. And this was basically due to the oil prices that I'm told. Now, the market crashed on March 10th, and she tweeted out messages. What she was doing, she was reassuring everyone else that the stock, the economy, everything is fine. And she actually wrote a tweet. And she wrote, it says, concerned about coronavirus? Remember this. The consumer is strong, the economy is strong, and jobs are growing, which puts us in the best economic position to take COVID-19 and keep Americans safe. Then she wrote, update following meeting with real Donald Trump, MVP. Now that means that she knew while she was assuring everyone else what the reality was, because she was moving her things around so that her and her husband wouldn't take a loss. Now Burr, who voted against legislation banning congressional insider trading in 2012, is accused of allegedly selling between $628,000 and $1.72 million of his stock holdings in 33 separate transactions on February 13th. Now, when a week later the market crashed, it reached a historical low, and that it got so low, the stock market did, that they had to suspend trading for 15 minutes. They actually halted it, where you couldn't do any trading because it was so low. And he was exposed on March 19th after the National Public Radio, NPR, acquired a recording from him that was done on February 27th, in which he was warning a small group of well-connected constituents at a very exclusive social club of the economic impact that the coronavirus could have and was going to have on the United States. And he even offered, he said that it was dire. But this is not what they were telling the public. This is what they were saying in private. So they knew what was about to happen. He even admitted at that meeting that he had with his private um, constituents, he admitted, he said this, and this is a quote: there's one thing I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything that we have seen in recent history. He said this on a recording. He said it is probably more akin to the 1918 pandemic. I find that extremely interesting that all of these senators had inside information and were allegedly telling the public everything was fine and that the economy looked good and that this administration could handle the market when it comes to the coronavirus, but was secretly selling off their stock and their shares in industries they knew were vulnerable to the crisis and informing their donors privately to sell off their stock. This is amazing to me. I shouldn't be surprised, but they did all of this before the volatility of the market began. So it would mean you would have to conclude that they used the knowledge and privilege from their position to sell specific stock they knew were going to plummet, and they profited. It kept them from getting a loss. And it makes you think about the last time they're with the housing crisis, they gave corporate America massive tax cuts. I mean, Donald Trump gave huge, massive tax cuts to big corporations when Obama was in office. That's how he came back from the housing crisis. He gave big companies, big banks, big money, and these companies actually use that money to buy up their own stock. What they do, they buy back their own stock. They didn't reinvest in the company or hire people. What they did, they bought up their own stock in the market because taking stock out the market increases the value and it is good for their shareholders. When they do this, it pushes up the value and executives or CEOs actually get more money or huge, unimaginable for the average worker size bonuses when their stock hit a certain target amount. So they bought back their stocks and put more money in their own pockets. But who is left with nothing? The employees, the people who lost their homes, they were left holding the bag. They had nothing but these big companies that actually created this atmosphere that caused the problems with the economy. It's almost like they were rewarded for that. So, in essence, it makes the rich richer and the poor poorer, which seems to be the American way. So, when this administration is talking about putting money into the economy, into the deep pockets of these corporations, there should be indeed a lot of oversights. And we should not forget that it is the working poor that keeps this economy going. It keeps it going. We keep it going. The working poor. You can see that. Just look around. What's going on? It's because most of us are not at work. Now, all this money going to these big corporations need guidelines and tough restrictions, and they should be forbidden to go back and buy this stock. And it should exclude, it should benefit the workers and exclude those CEOs because the amount of money and bonuses CEOs get will blow your mind. The hourly or salary workers need to be taken care of, and there should be a definite restriction on allowing corporations to use their funds to buy back their own stock. The CEO executives, I don't think they should get anything, quite honestly, because most of the time, and my husband has worked at a corporation before, and they would send out these annual reports, and we would actually look at it. This was years ago, and his salary would be the combination of everybody that worked there. What he get in a year was everybody's salaries combined. That's something to think about, and I think that's ridiculous. Now the airlines are actually asking for $50 billion in bailout money. But last time they got a huge bailout, they're said to have spent 96% of their free cash flow on stock buyback. Now they want more money to do the same. We need restrictions that make sure these corporations use this money to benefit their employees and not just their CEO and executives. Some of these people make in one year, like I said, what most of the employees combined make in a year. And we have to keep that in mind. That's pathetic. It speaks to the capitalist society's greed and it keeps us poor. The working class, it helps to keep us poor and widen that gap between the two. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And the sad part is, it is our own money. So I say, take that money and give it to the average citizen, the hard workers who deserve the funds and not these greedy big corporations. Now, these senators who were selling this money, these stocks within the midst of this pandemic, they profited and they were aware of what was going to, even though they're denying it and they're saying they allegedly didn't know that somebody else was trading these stocks on their behalf. How can they deny that they had this information? They're saying that they use third party entities to trade for them so that way they can pretend they aren't aware until afterwards, or they claim that a spouse made the choice to sell. But on what knowledge did they make that choice? The question still remains, how would they know what and when to sell the stock conveniently in advance of that stock plummet in the market? It is clear that many of these people are merely wealthy, greedy people in politics to profit for themselves and their kind. It is sad and it is quite disturbing to say the least, especially when so many families and individual hardworking people deserve assistance in these times. Now, in school, we're taught that government is made up of the people, ran by the people, and it's supposed to benefit the people. Somewhere along the way, somebody forgot to write in there they meant rich people. Now, the coronavirus has caused layoffs, and it's an overwhelming amount of unemployed people that are trying to make their claims to the unemployment office. And it's said to be up 30% from just last week with the shut-in. And it is estimated that unemployment may go as high as 30%, which is the highest on record for the United States economy. It's having a huge economic impact. And who does it affect the most? It's usually us. They are estimating that the next 3 months, a they're expecting a $225 billion loss to industry, and about, we would say, 5 to 7 million lost jobs, but I'm saying it's going to surpass that. And these 5 to 7 million people that have lost their jobs or can't perform their jobs, these are the people that should be getting and being compensated with this bailout money. They're trying to stay afloat in this crisis, and it's difficult. I saw long lines of people trying to get food. They're just trying to survive. And even though unemployment offices, they're saying that they are eligible for it, I'm hearing that they're overwhelmed. But you can file your claim online, and I think many of us should try. Those of us who need and know you can get it, try it. Because I'm hearing you get an extra $600. That's supposed to be a part of their economic package. And we've bailed out big corporations time and time again. But it's time to bail out the consumer or the individual taxpayers this time. Instead of this $1,200 stipend, I think they should be giving people $5,000. And that's just to start with, because rent is $1,200. So after you've gotten paid that 1,200, you've waited on it. What is left for utilities and groceries? Anywho, like I said, we are dealing with COVID here in Georgia, and there seems to be hot spots. We have a couple of hot spots here in Georgia. And what I mean by hot spots, there are places where it seems to be overwhelmingly taken over and deaths that are highly unusual or unexpected here. And those spots are in Atlanta, Albany, or this place called Phoebe, Georgia. And in these places, it's this stuff is affecting us. When I say us, I'm referring to black people. And again, I see and I hear what's being posted on social media, and I want to encourage everyone within the sound of my voice, do what you can to make certain that you are being very sanitary and careful when you leave your home and upon returning to your home. Take the time, wash your hand, keep you some. If you don't have the hand sanitizer, take you some alcohol. You don't have alcohol, use peroxide. Use what you can at the bleach and water. Just protect yourself, black folk. And don't be afraid to make your mask and put on your mask regardless of what others think. Protect yourself. I'm not buying all this stuff that I'm seeing about it being more prevalent among us, but I'm not taking a chance, and I want to invite you not to take a chance. Do what you need to do to stay alive and protect your children as well. If you can prevent them from going to these stores and stuff, that would be better. If you can leave them home, I mean, let them play outside and enjoy. But it might be a good idea to let one person make a run for the groceries or medicine or whatever is needed at this time. But we have to do all we can to protect ourselves because we're the only ones that can save us. And if you have information that can be beneficial to others in your community, please share it. If it is true or false, just don't give information that you know doesn't benefit us. But if you have good information, you have good ideas about how we can use things that we may already have on hand to prevent or protect ourselves from it, give some pointers or some hints. Be there to help your fellow person or people around you. That's how we're going to get through this. Because this isn't going to last forever, but for now, we need to take every precaution that we can to stay alive because we know that anything that happens to be bad, who do they normally say it affect the most? It is us. And I find this to be very amazing in regards to this COVID-19, the coronavirus. It's very suspicious, but even so, I want you to take every precaution that you can and try to stay away from the hospitals unless you absolutely have to go and stay out of areas where there are a lot of people. We got to keep that 6 feet difference. I say 10 feet between one another. It is very important, my beautiful black people, that we survive and be survivors and be helpful to one another whenever we possibly can. I'm going to share as much information that I can find on this COVID-19 or whatever I can find that can be of assistance to my people, and I would like for you to do the same. So I'm asking that you click the subscribe button and leave me a comment or press the follow button if you're on Spotify. Leave any information that can be helpful that I can share with anyone else. It may be of benefit. If you know how to make the mask, it's a good idea. Share it with someone who doesn't. Or perhaps you can make one and send it to them. We have to assist each other in times like this. It's very important. And I'm asking that you all be as safe as you possibly can and know that there are people that are praying for you, praying with you, and are taking the action to do whatever is necessary to prevent any loss of life. Now, I want to thank you for listening, and I will see you next time on Discussions with Dina.